Beautiful.
I tried some of the others, but they were too wild. I'm doing a lot of abstract now, and I couldn't find anything that was calming, but this isn't too annoying. You know, I think it's just like you've got your background, Pam, and that movement is so slow that it's not annoying. But I've had some people, you know, they get something in their virtual background that is just moving all around, and it's really distracting.
Yeah.
I like the ones where it's always sort of blurring your head in and out.
Yeah. Well, Joan, I like yours. Yours is kind of outer space. It's very quiet.
Well, it matches my new book title. Where to next?
Very smart. Smart girl.
Yeah.
Always branding. Always branding. That's good.
It's kind of funny too. Look, my hand disappears and comes back. Right? Yeah. I'm out in outer space. Yeah.
That's because you don't have a green screen behind you, do you?
No, I'm not fancy. No, I like your fish. I like your fish.
Well, I've been teaching on Zoom all year, so I do have a green screen and a lot of backgrounds.
Oh, you should give us lessons.
So it's the only technology I'm really good at.
Does the green screen prevent that sort of blurring where your head disappears? And
it does, yes. Without the green screen, you'll have that kind of fuzzy, you know.
Judy, how many have we got?
About
There's 27.
Screen?
How many?
27.
27. Okay.
Yeah, I'll stick in the chat as soon as I get it up. I have a video that shows you what you need to do to look good on Zoom. So I'll get it in there so you can.
Thank you.
Oh, I'd like that.
I hung a black sheet over a painting, which I love, but it was distracting for my students. So I just hung a black sheet on the wall because my
That works too.
system was so old, it wouldn't take a background. I couldn't.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, no, it does make a difference.
Yeah.
Do you not think my refrigerator is attractive?
I like it.
I think though, Hillary, for teaching, and like, you know, for teaching, that it's really good because it's very focused.
Yeah, exactly. And especially for the testing also, because I'm watching the clients intently and I want them to see my mouth because I'm doing Spanish. So I want them to see my mouth as well as hear me. Same with students.
Yeah, that's important. That is important.
Hillary, I think I need you. I've been doing, Spanish for years, and I'm still terrible at. I'm really good on paper, but I would say I have a lazy ear. I don't know.
Lazy ear.
Email me, Pam. Email me, Pamela, and I'll tell you what I have available. I'm about to start a class at the end of this month, but you may be more advanced than that. Anyway, email me. Hillary, the number.
I'm getting you right off the screen there.
Okay. Oh, right. It's right.
Well,
there.
it's 1 o'clock, and I think that it would be good for us to begin because we have a lot. We have a lot of folks, and we want to make sure that we have time for everything. And so I think that we will begin. And
I'm going to make a request. If you're not the speaker,
mute.
Put yourself on mute. And Linda, are you going to read out who is in the order?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So everybody, please put yourselves on mute.
Okay, I was looking for where it says, oh, I am recording. Okay, so we are recording, so good. Okay, so I would like to start by just welcoming everybody. It's very, very exciting for this celebration today, which is for the launch of the 2021 Poetry Anthology. And we're really excited to hear all the poets today read from the book, from their work. And also in the book, which you probably have a copy of, there is an alpha index in the beginning. Some of us are going to read the page number, which will help you. Some of the poets have more than one poem. Maybe they have 3, but I'm going to give you a page number, and once they start reading, you'll know which poem it is. Okay, so let's see. We do want to very definitely be on mute, please, until your name is called. When your name is called, if you will unmute yourself and be ready, that will be great. And I want to thank Judy Baker because she's helping me with the tech, which I desperately need. And I really appreciate that. And now, without any further ado, it is my great pleasure and my honor to thank Fran Claggett-Holland and Les Bernstein for their years and years of superb editing, of producing gorgeous books that are so beautiful and so professional that we are all just proud to be a part of it. We're proud to own them and to give them to our family and our friends. So these two gals, how many years has it been? I think we're going into Fran's 6th book with Redwood Writers that she's been the editor, and Les has been her co-editor for 5 of those books. So it's been pretty amazing. I must tell you, at the end of every year, when we are putting the book to bed, the last thing on Fran and Les's to-do list is to send me an email that says, Linda, we're all ready for next year. And they already are making plans for 2022. So we are so lucky to have them. So they're a dynamic duo, and they've even written a poem together that they are going to read for us today. And so please help me in welcoming and thanking Fran and Les. Yay.
So
Congratulations.
normally what we do is we usually have a poem at the last back cover of the book that Fran and I have braided together or wrote together. And this year we didn't do it. So we were sitting together and we decided to take one of my poems in the book and one of Fran's poems in the book and see if we couldn't make it work that way. So here it is. It's called Beyond the Dark. I do not know much about this world. What is a neutrino? What is an axion? Is dark matter anything other than what is between my ears?
There is darkness at the edge of sight. The more you look out of the corner of your eye, the more you fade away.
I do know this. Grief is not mannered and quaint. It's deep and unfeigned, a riot in the soul. It walks unstable terrain, finds no foothold.
When you fade away, others see you the way you once were at the edge of night, beyond the corner of their eyes.
Perplexed by spirits, words I write chisel their way, rise and shimmy, hope for consolation, long for distraction, but simply they just pile up.
There is a light beyond the dark, a light at the very edge of sight, a light straight on that only you can see around the corner of your life.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
So I now have the privilege and honor of introducing Linda Loveland Reid. And Linda's quite simply a wonder. She's a painter, she's a playwright, she's a director, she's a past president of Redwood Writers, and she's our anthology angel. She helps us with everything that we get stuck with. She knows how to get us unwired. So Linda's going to read her poem from the anthology.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm going to read you. I have 3 poems in the anthology. One I wrote, it was called Just, and I wrote it for my husband who passed away in August, Harry, but I can't read that one. So I'm going to read you the one called Right Here. Okay, right here. Let's ask if you want to be somewhere, anywhere. See yourself in the moment. Don't see the spider crawling up the wall, probably a black widow. Okay, see it for enough time to smash it. Don't feel remorse. Return to being here. There is wisdom in focus. Who said that? Before yesterday, did you even care about today being here? See that outrageous pink peony. How does it make you feel? The vividness can be wild making. Bring that intensity to this moment here. Forget hurt, even if you can't remember that time heals. Who said that? Own it. Make the commitment. You didn't say, I'll be here, but only sort of. Listen to the words, hear the rhythm, feel them press against your ear, your heart. Yesterday is then, you are now. Be in the moment, be here. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce Joanne Smith. So Joanne Smith spent most of her life in the public education as a teacher and a counselor and a principal and a superintendent. And she used the left side of her brain. Now she is retired and she finds herself drawn to evocative nature of poetry. Turn to page 216 to find Joanne Smith. Joanne.
Someone has to follow those three giants of ours, and I will humbly do so. I'm going to read Culling the Herd. To those of you who were on Poetry Power, and I hope that everyone here will join Poetry Power next time. It's wonderful. You will hear it again. Until the hunted tells her side of the story, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. She was not the first to raise her head, freeze in anticipation, and bolt for the camouflage of higher grass. The exquisite senses of her prime had receded over time. With no more than unabating flies to disturb her lull, it took her just a second longer to stop grazing in the lush grasslands. A second, all the time needed to leave her running at the back of the herd, aware it was she the cheetah had chosen to cull. Pain in her chest grew more insistent as she labored with animal urgency for breath, her heart pounding, brain scrambled, eyes bright hollows of madness, her cry a shrill, mournful horn. She felt the cheetah close in as the herd pulled away, her mind and body zigzagging, her marauder matching each maneuver. She called on the immortal spirit alive in her core. The summon was all strength and will, the plea, a hunger to survive. Like the murmur of a weakened wind, a sudden stillness sheltered the valley. The lone young cheetah, panting under protruding bones, her paws burning from the chase, gave up. She would go hungry again tonight. Her prey, masked in the mystery and magic of survival, flew as if on wings back to the herd. She was not the fittest, she was not the fastest, but she would not be called nor culled today.
Wonderful. Great.
Next, we have Barbara Armstrong, and Barbara Armstrong is a devoted member of the Blue Moon Collective, and her poems have appeared in the last 4 anthologies, so she's prolific.
Are you ready?
Oh, and it's page 14.
Okay, thank you. You may recognize this setting as the humble redwoods, and it's pretty specific to that, but it's also a poem about time and life and death. Sequoia sempervirens. This is for Fran. I have roamed these woods before, always for the first time. The trail scuffed raw by generations, haloed passages of sword fern, wood fern, maidenhair. Among the shattered timbers overrun with redwood sorrel, I kneel to touch 3 leaves of symmetry, caught in a wink of sunlight, flawless, if only for this moment. An earthy simmer emanates from cradles of decay, nurseries of beetle nymphs, spider sacks, restless seeds and saplings rising from the rot. 3 giants in a fairy ring cast no shadows as they lean their greening crowns toward heaven's radiant aperture. 2 butterflies spiral upward in a game of tag, bright yellow flickering the blackened canvas of a wound a century old. A burnt out oracle where I abide, as irises unlock the dark and tiny hammers in my ears begin to stir. A muted whir, and then a deeply rooted rhythm as harmonic rings envelop me. A chorus of living wood begins to sing. If only your mind were a slightly greener thing, we'd drown in meaning. And that last comes from the Overstory by Richard Powers. If you haven't read it, it's a wonderful book.
Thank you, Barbara. That was really lovely. Okay, and next we have Anita Arola. Anita, you'll find her on page 95. So Anita is originally from Finland, and her work has appeared in numerous anthologies. Her poetry and her photography have won awards locally and internationally. So welcome, Anita Arola. Anita, are you there?
I'm here. I forgot to mute.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you. Wilderness nocturnal. Clouds gather with chaotic purpose. Trees stand tall to the looming storm. The wind howls wild like the lone coyote, ripping branches bare like flesh of bone. Daylight gives way, shadows disappear into night, waking dangers, predators to task. Nocturnal life comes alive, solitary hunters on the prowl. A hare's anguished yelps echo in the trees. From a lofty perch, an owl eyes its prey. With a determined swoop, death enters life. Seeking refuge from moonlit drama, fauna retreats under cover, protecting young. Unknown danger rustles, a mother alert, concealing offspring with prayer. Morning sun's warm, calms with quiet grace. Wildlife leaves den safety. Fragile balance faces new day.
Very nice.
Thank
Very
you.
nice. Thank you.
Our next poet is John Jackson, who is a retired psychiatrist who teaches courses on Rilke. And he was a past poet of merit and has been in several of our anthologies. And, and I always take away his last line.
But it makes it a better poem. Thank you. I have one poem in this anthology. And this one is, it's about how in our lives we often, without thinking about it really, tend to speak in the passive voice and the past tense when it would be better for us to do otherwise.
It's on page 130. I'm sorry, John.
Mm-hmm. It's called What I Wanted. Why is it that people always say, I wanted to ask you, or I wanted to say, or I wanted to suggest something else? I always wonder, when did you want that? Yesterday? Last week? Last year? Or maybe you mean it's a constant craving over a long period of time. When I turned back to my monkey business, people seem puzzled, mouths half open, but they'll say, I wanted. I reply, yes, yes, I heard you. The past wants desperately to hold us, as if with blindfolds and gags and lethal loyalty to old, old tales which actually died long, long ago. Isn't it time now to stand up and step forward in the here and now, to be present in your experience, and finally say, if even a whisper, I want.
Thank you. That's wonderful, John. That really gives us something to think about too.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Very nice. Okay, our next poet is Sherry Leveler, and she's on page 148. Sherry Leveler is in Art Trails. She's an artist, and you can find her in Art Trails. And she also teaches lyrical abstract painting, both locally and nationally. And her paintings, what she says, Sherry says, is that her paintings and her poems inspire each other. So please welcome Sherry Leveler.
Thank you. Thank you. And this poem is one of the COVID poems that I have written. And it's called Maybe, Just Maybe. What if, for example, the earth wants us to learn what it feels like to have her grasp of life squeezed out from under her, her blood, the waterways clogged with plastic and slime, her lungs, the forests, cut clear without concern, her life force, the soil, denatured and damaged with pesticides and monocropping, her microsystems, animals and fish, birds and bees, endangered or killed, all her life-giving gifts and sustainable ways not being cared for and destroyed. How would the earth speak to us? How would she show us she can't breathe, that she is dying? How would she talk so she could be heard? Maybe, just maybe, she would show by example. She would infect our lungs, squeeze the very breath out of us, maybe by way of a virus that would spread without us knowing, that would keep people apart, break economies, immobilize nations, leave the dying without ceremony, with no end in sight. And maybe, just maybe, she could teach us to work together. She could help us see that we are one life on the brink of destruction, that we took our greed and carelessness too far. And maybe we can wake up and pool our efforts and dissolve conflicts and boundaries for a greater cause, to save the planet, to save life, to save each other. Maybe, just maybe, we can listen this time.
Oh, Sherry, that was lovely. Thank you. Very nice. And also I have to say, is that one of your paintings behind you?
It is one of my paintings that goes with another poem.
Yeah, nice job. Nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, our next poet is Carl Cady.
No, it's Sean Langwell.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, but Sean was not able to be here today.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so our next poet is Carl Cady, and Carl will be found on page 137. And he is the author of 2 books of poetry, and his poems have been published in magazines and anthologies and in newspapers. So please welcome Carl Cady. Are you there, Carl? I know I saw him earlier.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, there you are. Okay, great.
Yes, I'm going to read a poem called Delta. If there's a delta in your heart, if there's a river in your heart, there's a delta in your life. A place where everything flows and cannot be stopped. Where islands break the surface like otters, pausing to feed on clams. Where dams of logs and garbage divert the flow into unexpected directions, and mini currents quicken to compassion, where oil and chemicals engulf and kill fish before they can escape, and where a small whale circumvents it all to at last reach open water. And now you sit at the counter of the diner and peer into the hot, hazy horizon. A few feet away, there's a hot burner, an angry customer, the last slab of beef, a grease fire, and a woman's face. Today, someone leaves the diner with new love. Someone leaves with a signed contract, and someone leaves damaged beyond repair. You close your eyes and dream of an ancient god drinking the delta as a giant cocktail, fresh from the blender of creation, while Lucinda Williams plays nearby, and your diner bobs like an umbrella near the rim of the glass. The wrinkles about the god's eyes and mouth turn up quizzically. Is he musing about future events at this precious place? Or is he just having a hard time getting his drink down? Then your mind returns to a different delta, where you rebuild the 45-foot sloop, worry about truck payments, and watch your wife dance with your daughter in perfect time to a Zydeco scrub board beat. When the aroma of fish and fruit rises and fills the diner with an unseen cloud of unconditional love, you're neither surprised nor shocked. Just thinking about how your life drifts across this delta where everything happens and will not stop happening.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, these poems are fabulous, aren't they? Wow.
Amazing. Carl, I apologize. I have a rescue dog and she is highly neurotic. But so am I. So our next reader is going to be Joan Goudreau. She has 2 recently published books, and she is also a writer of plays and comedies. And she can be found on page 106.
My adult son is on the autism spectrum, and he lived in a support home in Paradise when the Paradise fires broke out, and 19 other group homes had to evacuate. So here's my poem. Group home evacuations. Campfire, 2018. Neon fire slashes between the black ridge and sky. From this gash of blood, men evacuate from 19 group homes, creep in Cal Vocation vans down Skyway Road. Where are we going? Sam yells over and over. Jose sways back and forth and bangs his head. Bob takes off his seatbelt and socks the driver. Through flames and smoke, dark as midnight, they find shelter at last in tents and old RVs near Woodson Bridge, beside the cold Sacramento River. Where's my bed? Sam says over and over. Jose paces back and forth. Go home, moans Bob. The men all huddle in gray haze and cinders, eyes water, smoke chokes. Sam stands by the river. Tomorrow, when I go home, I'll go to my recycling job, go to my Cove Center and hang with friends, go to Jackie's Hilltop Cafe for the hamburger special. The Sacramento flows by, murmurs what no one understands. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you. Very, very nice. Okay, our next reader is Robin Jagger Gabbard. Now, we all know that Robin is now the hostess of the Redwood Writers Salon, and her poem can be found on page 131. So Robin is a lawyer, and she said she finally escaped the drudgery of law, and she has returned to writing poetry. She has a book published, and her poems are in several anthologies. So welcome, Robin.
Thank you, Linda. I'm actually going to read two very short poems. The first is called Splitting Hairs on page 132. They say she keeps her feelings bottled up. Yes, I am a classic introvert, I suppose. However, it might be more accurate, perhaps, to say her feelings are like the hand grenade your crazy Uncle Joe brought back from Vietnam and keeps in a shoebox under his bed, or like the ball of twine Muffy bats around the living room, except when they're like the hot caramel on top of an ice cream sundae, or the face of a dolly clock. The second poem is It's Happening Again, a fire survivor's lament. Yellow gray skies again pervade my world. They are the color of the fangs I want to bear and snap and snarl at everyone and everything. Gray ash falling from the sky, as if snow was always the color of sorrow, as if trees wished to be licked by flames before peeling and disintegrating in fire's embrace. This is the afterbirth of a fire whose breath lingers on your clothes and in your hair, and builds a nest in your lungs like a starling, making every breath rattle through the branches.
Thank you, Robin.
Our next reader is Sky Blaine, and she is an assistant editor. She is our genius finder of all faults and missing things before we go to print. Sky writes fiction, memoir, and poetry. She's on page 56.
Hello, and in the book, this poem is called One Small Thing, but it's been renamed Grace. One small thing, just look slantwise. It can happen that fast. Without warning, the apparent world turns inside out and no thing remains the same. One small shift, a spiral in fate, blindsiding, yet asked for. The known falls away, concepts, beliefs, gone. What now? How shall I live? Wild paradox lacks any frame. When I think about it, can I welcome no meaning and love what comes? Is it too vast to hold? So I don't think about it. I've gone down that torturous trail 10,000 times. One small turn, invited yet unexpected, sought after yet surprising, and the world erupts as a one-song universe.
That's really lovely, Sky. Thank you. We're getting a lot of poetry to give us food for thought today. It's great. Okay, our next poet is Margaret Rooney. And Margaret Rooney, I will say, is the first place winner of the Redwood Writers Poetry Contest. And Margaret is a retired psychotherapist and rancher. And she had two poems nominated for the Pushcart, and poets know that Pushcart nominee is a big deal, okay? So welcome, Margaret Rooney. Are you there, Margaret?
To unmute. I forgot to unmute. Hi. All right, I'm here. Amidst the ruin, in this winding down day, green leaves blaze and shrivel. Ripe seeds singe and blow through burn-bitten air. Ash upon ash of soft things and hard, furred, fleshed, footed, and hooved. Curls a gray cowl around the graveyard sun in an orange and livid day sky. We have perhaps foreshortened our dust-appointed time with this ruin we spread. Bark crackles in a humpbacked wind. Metals melt. Roofs stream flames. Door frames darken and collapse. In charred and sullied fields, the yellow teeth of corn turn black. Trees smolder in unaccustomed light. Black ruined spires, burning syllables of a new language in this fractured landscape. What does it tell us if time's intact and the world's worn away, shorn of branch and bud? Who shall be morning's stronghold against the eroding sea, the withering wind, and guard the ramparts of the sky when there are no gods left to us under the world's round and wounded eye?
Thank you, Margaret. That was powerful.
Thank you.
Well, our next poet is our other Margaret, and this is Margaret Barkley. Margaret is both a poet and a teacher, and she's had writing groups in her home since 1999. Are you there, Margaret?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I think I have 5 poems in the book. I chose this one because it feels like what we're doing here today relates to this poem.
Do we have a page number?
I don't.
Sorry, page 24. Sorry.
24. It's okay. Called Warm Eyes. Forgive me if I've told you this before. I tend to do that. I was born into this world, then everything wonderful and sad just happened. And now I tell the same stories in different ways over and over. You probably do this too. We are trying to make sense of this. When my grandson saw a family photo without his little sister in it, his mom told him she wasn't born yet, and he asked, well, where was she? And that is exactly the thing I'd like to know. Where were you before you were born? Where was I? And how did we end up here? What luck to live and breathe in this place on this blue and green planet, given sun and trees waving in the breeze, shameless peonies and roses, bodies that move and see and feel loveliness. We really don't have anything to complain about, except we do, because everything hurts. The wilting, the dying, the losing, the insults of the body, the knowing that we are here for a blink, and the not knowing where we will be after we leave. I would just like to know how to make the best of it, wouldn't you? So I'll tell you my stories, you tell me yours, and we will listen to each other with warm eyes.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next poet is Rebecca Everett, and you can look on page 97. Rebecca is retired from a career in healthcare. She is a member of the famous Rumi's Caravan. It's a performance group who emphasize the restoration of the oral tradition. In other words, they do a lot of memorizing of poetry. So welcome, Rebecca Everett.
Thank you, Linda. This poem is titled Praises, and it was written after a walk at Fairfield Osborne Preserve. When I listen deeply, bare feet on the earth, caress falling leaf carpets, oak leaf mash, path of yellow gold dust, lined with bay laurel balls. When I wander through fog-shrouded hills with primal root forms, mosses enlivened by raindrops, lichens of gray and green, feathery horsetails, fungi's secret messages, the flicker calls, the juvenile red hawk circling, the sapsucker drills couplets on poplars and aspens. Fly punctuates this writing on paper. When I stop to inhale the scent of creek near dampness, hear frogs echo ageless water spirits in a stream cradled by rocks. Ancient lands reveal splashes of yellow maple. Boulders move sloth-like down the hillside. This is how the knowing comes, up into the body, sap rising, rooting me to earth.
Very nice. Thank you. Lovely.
Our next poet is Linda Stamp. She's had a career in community organizing, law, journalism, and my very favorite, she is a retired professional football player. This girl does everything. And you can find her on page 222.
We have to say that every time Linda Stamp is introduced.
Whether I put it in the biography or not, thanks for that. I'm reading my poem's on page 222, and I'm reading A Turn in the Road. And the poem was inspired. I live across the street from a cemetery, and this poem was inspired by a walk there one day. A Turn in the Road. Syed Ibrahim is a neighbor I've never met. He offers praises to Allah and once world, his white robe edging the wind, the tassel on his fez in flight. He rests beneath the rosemary and lavender planted atop the mound of earth that covers his nether home among the rows of names, the scent anointing the display. His amber prayer beads dangle from the alabaster marker inscribed with salutations and verses to Allah and his family. A studded pentagram marks the 5 pillars of Islam. Tucked behind the monument rests a plaque that reads, "I love Palestine," next to a crystal flaring the light of the afternoon sun as the moon shapes a crescent of sky overhead. When I stop to visit Syed, we share the silence of this place and the revealed and imagined story of this man who has no present or future, the finite given way to the infinite. As I wander toward the village of Italian mausoleums, the fir trees hiss in the breeze, chimes in the distance register the sound, breaking the silence. I turn once around and nod.
Very nice, Linda. Thank you. Okay, our next reader is going to be Betty Less, and you can find her work on page 143. So Betty's favorite themes are trees, birds, rivers, rocks, and time. Sounds like that can't go wrong. She writes poetry as memoir and also for what she calls meaning making. So please welcome Betty Less.
Thank you, Linda. I have 4 poems in the anthology, and this is the first, as Linda said, page 143. It's called Fire Moon. It was beautiful, rising above the trees, full and round, just as I anticipated, except for the color, like a National Geographic photo of a sunset in Tangiers, or the way molten steel glows as it's poured from a blast furnace. Fires are burning at the edge of my town, burning all over the state, turning the moon orange. Yet here I am, standing in the middle of the street, ashes collecting on my face and shoulders, gazing at the moon, trying to hold on to wonder.
Lovely.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next poet is Basha Hirschfeld, and she can be found on page 124. Basha teaches meditation, and she says that she finds the process of writing to be a path for self-discovery.
Now, Basha said she might be late and might not make it, so I'm kind of not sure whether she's here or not.
I don't see her in the lineup here.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll move on. I wanted to say that we are moving along very nicely, and maybe what we want to do is just not have a break and, you know, go right on through, because I think we'll be just a little bit after 2 when we're done.
Yeah.
That work for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, great, great. Okay, so our next reader is Hillary Susan Moore. I didn't know that your middle name was Susan, Hillary. She can be found on page 167. And we know Hillary because she's an actor and also the director of Off the Page Readers Theater that has worked with us in producing our winners from our play reading contest. And Hillary teaches Spanish, and she also teaches bilingual. She's a bilingual test designer. So welcome, Hillary.
Thank you. This poem is from a couple of winters ago when we actually had winter, called Old Bones. Old wretched bones clinkety clank against hard, unforgiving edges of the world. Old wretched bones attempt to frame a group of stretched out ligaments which try to hold tough, stringy muscles, which try to hold lumpy flesh, which tries to hold itself inside a saggy skin. Old wretched bones on winter days blast forth, walking briskly against the wind, or seeking comfort in a blanket scrunched up by the fire, or submerged in neck-high bathwater. Old wretched bones will have their due when day is done. They find this place beneath the covers, finally pleased with gravity and the promise of a dream time.
Thanks, Hillary. That's lovely.
The next poet is Harker Bergen, and she is a writer and an editor. Her work has appeared in a number of anthologies, and we can find her on page 72.
For my husband on his 66th birthday. I dreamed in acrylics, and in the morning, you were there. Had I painted you with all the colors of my longing? Blue for the emptiness of the midnight sky. Red for the life loosed from my leaking heart. Yellow for the hope kindled by the noonday sun. Here you were, gloriously lush and green, like the buds of spring exploding, purple like the lion's pride, and the orange of flame. Your flames burned me to the ground, and you rebuilt me with the fire of your love, bandaged my heart with your light, and sparked my midnights with stars.
Thank you, Harker. What a lucky guy. Okay, our next reader is Phyllis Meshelbaum, and I haven't seen Phyllis. I didn't see her in the crowd, but I think she's here. And I think the biggest thing I can say about Phyllis is that she is the Sonoma County Poet Laureate. And she has taught with California poets in the schools for more than 20 years. So we are honored to have our Sonoma County Poet Laureate in our book and with us today. And you can find Phyllis on page 162. Welcome, Phyllis.
Thanks, Linda, and everybody. So I will read the poem that's on 162. It's called Wisps Passing By. She was a wisp of a thing with a bright face. We waited for her on the side of a mountain road when the departing sun had dissolved into a pool of rosé along the western sky, with black lace of trees in front. Our daughter, another wisp with a bright face, joined us in the car, her voice anyway, by the grace of the Bluetooth fairy. It took a while, but the sky finally darkened enough for us to make out a few of the stars of the Big Dipper in the northwest. 3/4 of the way to the horizon from there was where to look. And there she was, filmy skirts long as she swam down toward Earth, long braid up her back, head bigger than any star. We observed and shivered and observed, then drove, stopped again, saw her framed in the mountain's V-neck. Glad we saw a comet Neowise. She won't be back for nearly 7,000 years. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you very much. Okay.
The next poet is Julie Schrader. Julie is a psychotherapist, an author, and a teacher. She's written historical fiction, memoir pieces, poems, songs, and short stories. This is a very busy girl. You here, Julie?
Judy, do you see Julie listed?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on. Our next poet is Wendy Bartlett, and you can find her poem on page 33. Wendy's published 4 children's books and 3 adult novels. And she is an award winner. Her novel won an award at the San Francisco Writers Conference. That's a pretty big deal. So we welcome Wendy Bartlett.
Hi, everybody. So
Hi.
Because we haven't been able to travel this year, I thought this is the 4th poem in your poetry anthology, our. And so I thought this might feel a little bit appropriate because we sort of had to freeze our lives for 1 year. It's called What I Know, page 36. What I know is it is never the right time to make a change. There are commitments, classes, tenants, rent, grandchildren, grown children who need you still. And then there is the sound of the weir just outside your door, here in the country in France, next to the moulin, the water wheel, the ducks and nibbling fish, endless chatter of nature, reminding you of the few years left and knowing there is never the right time. And there is always too much to do. And it is a horribly long flight back. No, there is only one way, and that is just do it. Just go or stay now. Besides, the winter will come, The thick old walls will be damp and cold, and you will fly like the birds to warmer climes, for sure. So now is the time, not next week. You will be able to manage. You just have to say yes. Happy travels, guys.
That's very inspirational. Okay.
The next poet is Nancy Cavers Darty, and she's the author of 3 chapbooks, and she is an advocate for teen counseling services in high school. And where are you? Do I see you? Nancy, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, yay.
Yay.
Oh, and she's on page 91.
Okay, I'm going to read 2 of the short poems of the 4 that are in the book. And I chose these because these, in this odd past year, these are of past times, which I could not experience in the current time because of the shelter in place. And the first is called, was written during an annual silent retreat that I go on. And there was certainly enough silence this past year, but it wasn't the same. So this first is called Forest Talk. You can't talk even if they can. Rain sounds to rooster like sniffles. Rain sounds to trees like snoring mania of crickets. Rain sounds to woodpecker like creak of floorboard and plastic medicine pill clatter. The plop plopping is solemn to you in night yurt. And this next poem is from the year past, from a family vacation. It's called Sounds of Winter, Anna Maria Island, Florida. Pure punctuations of child voice bounce over white fence, high pitch of innocence. Under rumble of pool equipment, the dog barks, casually, occasionally. Low murmur of the gulf beyond, cry of gulls. The sun glare, the white sands, pink flamingos on pillows, walls, coasters hum just like paradise. Shadows of palms flit and waver over the stucco of one-story beach homes, a pantomime. Fronds moving, whispering all day long, like close-bound friends. Gentle season teases. Thank you.
Very nice, Nancy. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see, where are we? We are, Pamela Stone Singer is our next poet, and you can find her work on page 210. Page 210. And Nancy is a poet teacher, and she is also a coach.
Pamela.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, did I say her name wrong?
You said Nancy.
Oh, Nancy. Okay, well, I'm still thinking of Nancy. Okay, so Pamela she's a teacher of poetry, and she is also a coach for poetry. And she was nominated for a Pushcart Prize in 2012. So welcome, Nancy Stone Singer.
Pamela Stone Singer.
Pamela, my goodness. Once I get something in my head, it doesn't go out very easily.
I understand. So I'm going to read my poem on 200 and page 214. And I picked this because my husband's a surfer and he went out yesterday for the first time. And I'm going to read this because this is about him. Michael surfs under the Golden Gate Bridge. Swallowed by waves and the sunset, Michael surfs under the bridge on a dark November day. People from other states and countries gather. Mother in hot pink sweats cradles her baby. Jogger in turquoise shorts, rubies dangling from ears. Children stare. Brown lab bounds along the shore, barking at surfers as they drift in black wetsuits. Watching from shore, newcomers take photos of surfers, the bridge, and the city beyond, to send to their families in Iowa, Beijing, Bucharest, who have never seen the ocean. Alcatraz in the distance, prisoners awed by the proximity of the city, sails of boats, the mountains that the freedom that mountains and slate gray water promise. Sea rages against the fading day, black waves crash over surfers outlined against the rust-colored bridge. I have heard that when people jump from this bridge, their bones crack when they hit water. When this happens, they break ties with their ancestors. I see it another way. Creatures rise, cradle their broken bodies. The person is rocked by waves into waiting sky. Michael, now surfing dark wind and 6-foot waves, is as elusive as phantoms from Alcatraz, as distant and cryptic as bones.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
The poet is Angel Stork Booth, and she's a minister, a teacher, and a writer who offers guidance and spiritual practices. Is Angel here?
And do you have Judy, do you have her listed?
I don't see it unless she's under a different name.
Okay, yeah, Angel Booth Stork, are her 3 names. So, okay. Now our next poet is Chelly Hain Gummer, and you can find her poem on page 111. So Chelly has published 8 children's books, and she self-published a Family Geese, a children's print book, and her poems have been printed in several anthologies. So welcome, Chelly. I know she's here because I talked to her.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm so glad to be part of this group. I'm just amazed at the poetry. Anyway, mine is Spider Dilemma. Not again, not you again, spider in the sink, scrambling in a frantic. Why do you come here? I have thought in the past, evolutionary logic, you know, survival of the fittest. If you can't solve the problem, it's over. Spiders that get in the sink or the tub, you will not survive the flood when it comes in brutal force. Evolutionary judgment. Then human compassion arises. In my friends, imagine, easy enough to lift the naughty spider out of harm's way. So being changed inside, having a fresh sense of guilt, when I take the evolutionary stance, I rescue the misplaced culprit. It lives to air another day.
Clever.
The next poet is Florencia Scott, and she writes poetry that explores the connections between perceived reality and imagination. She's been previously published in our anthologies, and I believe she was a poet of merit. And you can find her poems on 201.
The one I'm going to read, thank you, Leslie. Sorry, I linked into your name, is Land's End on page 202. So I think everybody knows what I mean by Land's End, the place called Land's End. People are nodding, so I won't explain it. There was a palace here where hundreds of people swam in 7 pools, safe from riptides, rogue waves, shark teeth, poison-tipped tentacles. They laughed and swam in clean, sanitized water. and watched the wild ocean slam against tall glass walls. Now, drowned yellow algae gleams corpse-like in the black, still captive water. And what remains of the grand entrance crookedly grips the crumbling cliff. The rising tide storms across the narrowing beach, thrusts sand against pocked concrete, slides salt into widening cracks. Soon the concrete will release the sleep dark water, shatter to scattered chunks, crumble into pebbles, then sand.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next and our last reader, but certainly not the least, is Pamela Heck, and her poems are on page 119. Pamela is a writer and an artist and a special education teacher, and she really even hopes to go back to France this year for another artist residency. And Pam's poems have been published in a number of anthologies. So welcome, Pam.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm here. There I am. Okay. Well, I just would like to say that I think that Shelley Gummer and I had the same spider inspiration, because I also have a spider poem. I'm wondering, both of my poems are quite short. If it would be all right if I read 2 of the 4 that I had in there, is that
Okay.
possible?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay. This one's called Spider Relocation. Bad news keeps pouring in. I had no heart to kill today. I found her perched upon my mirror, perhaps to preen or just to snag a meal, a speck so small I almost didn't see. I am not fond of spiders, but this small thing required some inspection. Its minute body sprouted slender strands of leg like filament. I do not know what spiders think or feel, or even if, though captured in a cup, her frenzied circles showed distress. Released outside, she froze in place, then scurried off, perchance irate to trade her shiny mirror for gray cement. I think I'll leave it there. So.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Thank you. We have heard now, we have been joined by Basha Hirschfield, and she wants to know if she can read her poem. So Basha, you are there, and I will introduce you now. She's a writer and a seeker of life, and she finds the process of writing poetry a path to self-discovery. So Basha, and I don't have the page number, but
it's page 126.
Okay, great.
Thank you for letting me jump in. I was at a funeral and a baby shower.
Wow.
And thought I'd
you could write a poem about that.
Jump in here too. So this is a poem called To Someone I Once Knew. Now that you are gone from my life, I have only memory. Like a movie, it unwinds, beginning, middle, end. Your bright face appearing framed by the open door, asking questions, seeking answers. I was once a part of that answer. Dark eyes flashing, a swagger to your step. I wanted only to walk next to you. Through the foreign streets, the dancing language you joined so easily, matching its rhythms with your own. And I by your side like a trusting child, staying close to her big sister. The proud shoulders I followed through the narrow streets and over rough terrain, the cobblestones, the strange colonial structures, the jigsaw puzzle marketplace, watching you try on just one more broad-brimmed hat, but buying flowers instead. Fragrant flowers for our hostess, laughing at me pulling out my GPS when in fact I could just follow you and find our way together. We found our way together through the colors of Mexico, the colonial overlay in Morelia, the performers fleecing the crowds in Guanajuato, the cultural experiment of San Miguel. Could it work? Markets and music and mezcal, the richness of your culture, the paleness of mine, sometimes straining to understand, sometimes straining to be understood. Laughter catching me then like a wind. I remember you now like a movie, beginning, middle, end. The final act, a clashing of words, distortion of meaning, a fight in the car, a fight in the last hotel, and me still believing, still hoping, and you just dying to get away. The taxi arrives, the final hug, the sadness in the air. Like a movie, the music lingers, beginning, middle, end. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. I think we probably, several of us could resonate with some of those sentiments. Well, we are done. We made it. It was really amazing poetry. Before we leave, however, I want to ask Fran or Les if either of them would like to say anything.
Well, I would, and I'm sure Fran would also, but I wanted to thank everybody for their beautiful poetry and for making this such a gorgeous anthology. And I wanted to share with you, low tech, if you can see the picture of the next cover. Can you see it?
Oh, wow. Wow.
It's another painting by Christine McDonald, and the title is Crossroads. So we're not ready to really get rolling yet, but it'll be an open theme. So put that in your hopper and see what you think about Crossroads. I just want to say one more thing. It was a privilege to read your poems and to be able to see them in print. Fran, are you there?
And it must be thrilling for you to hear them read.
Unbelievable to see them come to life. I mean, we know they're good when we pick them, but honestly, hearing them read is just a whole other experience.
Yeah.
I love the launch because we get to put faces and voices to the poems. And I think having poems read aloud or said aloud like Rebecca does is a wonderful experience. I do want to say that this group of poets is phenomenal and unusual. I don't say this lightly. You know, Les and I know many, many poets, and we've read thousands of poems, but there's something about these anthologies, and they get better and better as all you are getting better and better. Many of you have been in 4 or 5 of our anthologies, and we notice the changes. We notice how they are growing and you are growing. And I just think it's as Les said, it's a real privilege to work with you and to give your poems both print and voice. So I hope we'll be able to do that again next year.
Oh, that for sure. We're not going to let you go. And you don't seem to be willing to leave. I mean, that's just perfect. It's perfect. I want to say one more thing. Fran and Les and myself, every month now we have something called, Joanne called it Poetry Power, but we're changing the name to Why Poetry, the Poetry Project. And then it's the second Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And so our next
Thursday.
one is June 7th June 10.
It's a Thursday.
At 7 o'clock. Pardon? I said Tuesday, Thursday. Believe me, we've changed the date around a lot. Okay, so it's June 10th.
Thursday at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Yes, and so it's wonderful because what we're doing is kind of pulling back the curtain. It's a way for people to look, maybe who don't belong to a poetry group, haven't had the opportunity to kind of see how all that happens. And so we introduce a poet a poet of note, and we also will introduce new poets. There's a critique period of time. We talk about different forms of poetry. So we're, kind of introducing that. Maybe it's a haiku, maybe it's a villanelle. So we welcome you and we hope you will join us. And you do that by going to Sebastopol Center for the Arts and you can sign on. I will be sending a flyer out to everybody on that. If you don't mind, I'll include you in on the flyer. Okay,
And our next one is going to have Rebecca Everett and
yes,
Barry
Rebecca's
Robinson, and they will be talking about the oral tradition and memorization and Rumi's Caravan. And as Fran says, just let them do whatever they want.
It'll be wonderful. And of course, Larry Robinson, you know him from a poem a day. He's put a poem a day out for 20 something years, maybe 25 years. It's been a long time.
A long time.
Anyway, we're excited to have both.
Some of you have been on, as I was this week, have been on Larry's list, and it's a very big thrill because almost always somebody from some far part of the world writes to you and said, I loved your poem that was on Larry's list. It's a very exciting thing. This time I got a note from an English professor in Tehran, and she was talking about the poem on Larry's list that she read, my poem, and it's really exciting. So that's something that you might think about too, because your poems are incredible. And one of these days you'll have one of yours on Larry's list.
Okay, is there anybody else that has anything to say? If not, I want to thank Redwood Writers. It's Redwood Writers who is sponsoring our books, who is sponsoring the contest. We're so lucky to have that and to be a part of that. And I certainly agree with Fran. I've been in Redwood Writers for many, many years, and the quality and the talent and the skill, I think the skill is just really increasing. Okay, that's it. We're good to go. We have recorded this and we will send it to you. Okay.
It'll be up on YouTube also. So
thank
all
you,
for
Judy.
being here.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you so much.
And
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everyone. Nice to see everyone.
Yes.
Bye.